Just because you think it works for other brands, it may or may not work for yours. And I know that's a really great way to do some research in the first place, right? To see is like, okay, if this brand, this beauty brand that has hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram is doing their content this way or running their ad this way or promoting their new launch this way, then if I do it, I'm gonna get the same results. But there's so many factors that came to that you will probably not align with, right? Whether that's a slight age difference, an ICP, or their products just land differently or whatever that is, it could go really poorly for you. And that's kind of what ended up happening with them.
Welcome to the next episode of Beauty and the Brand. I'm here with Chelsya Ernina. She's the founder of Chaya Media. It's a digital marketing agency specializing in relationship-based marketing and data-driven strategies. Her agency's mission is to help entrepreneurs feel confident in scaling their businesses and generating high-quality leads through authentic email marketing and paid ads. Welcome, Chelsya.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you on here because you have been an advisor to both of our programs, so both our signature program, Conventional Status, and our Mastermind. And our founders love you, and they are always so excited when they get their website audits or they learn about, email segmentation, all the good things. So super stoked to have you on this podcast today.
That's amazing. I know I've worked with you guys for a while now, and each round, group of students are always so fun and really dedicated to their business and learning more. And so I'm excited for this podcast episode because, for anybody who aren't in those programs, they'll be able to get a little bit of a taste, hopefully.
Absolutely. So let's start with your journey. So what led you to marketing? Because I know you and I have spoken quite a bit about our immigrant backgrounds and our parents' expectations of going to medical school, which neither of us ended up going to. And I ended up going to pre-med. And I can't remember, did you do pre-med too?
I did. Yep. I took the exams, all the things.
Yeah, me too. Okay. Yeah. So I knew I knew that you were supposed to go to medical school.
Yep.
And ultimately didn't, and I didn't either. So was there a defining moment that made you think okay, this is what I'm meant to do instead of going to medical school?
I think honestly, in the beginning days, it just happened that way. It was social media was very new at the time. Things were just kind of coming up with blogging, and I was already learning my way around specific things. So I kind of fell into it. So it was a great exit from the medical field, thankfully. But I think since then, I don't think there is one exact defining moment. There's really more little moments here and there where I get to see the direct impact that I have with our clients and with founders, right? We work with a lot of small businesses, and everything that we do impacts them down to the cent and impacts them down to the second of their life. And when I was younger and not as mature, I always thought, medical field is the only way I can impact anybody and save their life and really put a dent in their life. But it's so cool to see being in entrepreneurship and working with founders that it is just the same, if not more in a way, right? Because we're really opening up opportunities for them to live the life that they want, to be able to pay for medical bills or to be able to go on sabbaticals or maternity leave. And so it's those small little moments along the way where founders are like, oh my gosh, I get to take 3 months off guilt-free because my business has been doing well for maternity leave, or I can do a flash sale because I know my marketing strategy is on point and this is going to boost my cash flow for something that I need inventory-wise. Those little things along the way that I'm like, okay, I'm in the right place. I'm doing what I need to do, and it's working, and it's all worth it.
I love how you kind of you brought in the big picture, because I think when we're working day in, day out, it's I'm working on this tagline and how to fix this tagline that is more attractive and converts at a better percentage. And so you can lose sight of what the big picture is and what this actually means and the impact that it has. But it has such a huge impact day in and day out. Hearing when founders, like you said, if they can have these big moments, I have this one founder who's planning on bringing her boys to New York City next year. And they're of the age where they're going to be leaving the home soon. And like, I'm so excited to like work on that plan with her to make sure that that happens and she can realize that personal goal because I know how much it means to her. So it's like the work that we're doing.
Yeah.
I see the tie-in of like the life tie-in or the impact tie-in.
Right.
So I totally
it's more
get
than
it.
just a sales goal. Yeah.
Totally. And okay, so you've worked with some major brands like Rite Aid, AARP, Kinesco Skin. So what's the biggest lesson that you've learned working with such large corporations that you then carried into your own agency?
Yeah. So I love this question because, more recently, last year, I got to work with JCPenney, which was really cool because growing up, you go to the mall and you just like see JCPenney and you see people shopping there and then you leave, and it's like this really big brand. And I always thought that these big brands like Rite Aid, AARP, JCPenney, Nesco Skin, they work with celebrities, they work with athletes, they have this robust corporation. And I always thought that there was something that they're doing that small business founders have no idea. Like they don't know the hidden secret. They don't have access to tools or platforms or softwares that these big companies do that can just like unlock the secrets of marketing and sales. But what's so interesting is that a lot of these companies have maybe 3 or 4 in-house marketing team members, maybe 3 or 4, right? Like a lot of them, for example, a couple of the brands I just mentioned, they had 2 social media managers each. 2, where you would think there would be so much more. They had 1 email marketer. 1, which is wild to me to
That's
see like
crazy.
how many things go out each day, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so as small business founders, we kind of think, okay, we don't have the bandwidth, we don't have the capacity, we don't have the strategy, but that's untrue. And instead, what I've learned is that we just have to realize that at the end of the day, great marketing and great business strategy comes from knowing and researching your ideal customer, not assuming. I think where founders or small businesses really, their number one mistake is assuming how their ideal customers think, how they feel, what they like, what they don't like. But that isn't what leads to results. Data does. And when we think about these larger corporations or these larger agencies, because I used to work for a Publicis Sapient agency and they're like award-winning agencies, they take research very seriously. And so even with small teams or even one person doing one specific marketing channel, they can do it well because they build off of data and off of research. And
music to my ears because I feel like all day, every day I have when I have founders ask me a question, my answer often is like, well, what would your target customer, how would your target customer respond to this? It's not, don't ask my opinion because that's going to be skewed off of like what my preferences are. And I may not be your target customer. It goes back to like, let's look at your survey results. So we'll pull up their survey results. We'll be like, okay, well, actually it's X, Y, Z. So I love that you're sharing this. And I love that you're saying like some of these big corporations, they don't have huge teams, but what they are leaning on is a methodology for their research and refinement of who the target customer is and really like narrowing in on like, let's make sure we're messaging every single thing that's going out is messaging directly to the target customer.
Exactly. If they have 2 weeks to prepare for a launch or a campaign, 10 out of those 14 days are research. Like 10 out of days is just like talking to people, right? And then the last 30% of that timeline is creating the actual plan.
Yes, thank you. I do think that there's also something to be said about operations. I know that's not a conversation for another day, but I do think like prioritization comes into play here with the target customer. It's like, again, it comes back to like, if you just dial in on what your priorities are, who your target customer is, you're not having to sift through like 20 different ideas or 30 different ideas, humming and hawing and wondering what you should do. You have a much clearer sort of direction of like, oh, I know I have to do this and I have to write it to this person. And it makes the actions a lot like faster.
Easier. Yeah.
For sure. I love that you said that because I think it's something that maybe some people haven't thought of and that perspective is helpful. So you specialize in relationship-based marketing. What does that actually mean in
Yeah.
today's digital world where, relationships feel really disconnected or transactional?
Yeah. I think that goes hand in hand with market research. Like I talked about that a little bit. Your customers do not want to feel like a number. They don't want to feel like they're just one sale, one number that is a part of your business. One of the things that we really pride ourselves in is we like to figure out what is that extra step for our clients? What is that extra step that our founders can take within their businesses to build more of a relationship with their customers? And so where other marketers and other businesses stop when it comes to data mining, analyzing data, campaigns, creating retention campaigns within their emails, wherever they stop, we think about it as how can we take it one more step to just feel that much more intentional with our clients' customers. And so a lot of marketing, when it's kind of just done, in this like fast manner or it feels rushed, marketing that in that way, it often leads with desire. Like they think about what do I want? What are my goals? What do I need to hit? How much do I have to make? What's the sell-through that needs to exist? Versus taking a step back and saying, how can I help my customers? Like, here is how I can help my customers. My product helps them in this way that no other product can. And when we do it that way, it feels less disconnected. And yeah, I mentioned like that's what helps us stand out from other agencies, is that we take the time to really understand our clients, understand their businesses, and then taking the time to understand their ideal customers, start to finish, their full journey, because we want to know what will turn heads and what will make essentially these customers feel like we love them and they're part of the family. I think a lot of businesses say like, our customers are our family, but what does that actually mean and how would you talk to them if they were?
I love that.
Yeah.
How would you actually talk to them if they were your family?
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
And
One thing that I saw this on TikTok the other day, and I thought it was actually really, really enlightening. But she was talking about her resolution for 2025 of how she is going to give her best foot forward to her direct circle versus the other way around where like naturally we're kind of like trying to show our best to strangers, right? And then our family and our friends kind of get the non-filtered version, right? The non-filtered version, and I don't want to say the worst because for some people it may not necessarily be the worst, but it is sometimes, like in that case it is sometimes the worst or the very, very unfiltered version. And a lot of the times that leads to not being loved. Like that leads to a lack of relationship. And so when I saw that, I was like, okay, that's really interesting, because what would that look like if we actually let our love flow, our relationships flow from the top down versus like strangers up, and then connecting that to e-commerce, like what would that look like
that's
if
cool. I
your
like that.
business being an extension of you? Yeah.
I like that. It's so funny because so I don't want to go on a side tangent, but my husband and I will ping each other, at least once a day during our work hours, just to be like, hey, like just checking in, how's your day going? Or like, hey, I love you. It's just a kind of like, hey, I'm thinking of you. And it's so funny because I do that now with I do that with my clients too and with my members. And so I love that you shared this because it is kind of connecting for me right now that I do this internally. I wish I did it more with like friends, but I still do it, but I feel like we can all do it more frequently. And it's just a lesson or a reminder to be like, hey, just pinging our customers randomly, being like, hey, how's that product going? Like, how are you liking it? What, how's it feeling? Like, what are your, what's your experience with it?
Exactly. One brand that does that really, really well is Fresh Sense. They're not a beauty brand; they're a wellness or lifestyle brand. Fresh Sense, the flowers, like they have that. They start off as flowers, right? If you think about it, there's like that wasn't a market to penetrate. Like the flowers that they have really are beautiful, but it is very pricey. For one, if you ever sent Fresh Sense, it's like $75. You could probably support a local business and share that to your send that to whoever you want to send. But they did really, really well with relationship-based marketing from the very beginning, and they still carry it out today, where like once a week, every day on that dot or on that time, once a week, they'll send out like the love notes that people sent from Fresh Sense. No promos, nothing whatsoever. They're like, this is the love notes. And then another email they'll send out in every week, as well as a text, is just like a love note from them to the customer. And it's just like building that relationship little by little. And I really think that's why they've grown so fast, because it wasn't necessarily this like unique product or this, cheaper or luxury product. It's just like a really cool gift, letting people to know like I'm thinking of you. And so they really live that out well.
I like that. I like that a lot. I remember there was this one campaign from one of our founders where it was like what did we do? It was like it was for Valentine's Day. And initially we were going to do like a promotion, and then we nixed the promotion because of the quantity of the products that she had. It was like a small quantity. And I'm like, well, is this really going to move the needle? Let's actually do like not sending a love note. It was, what's it called? It was like sending like, so what we did was just sent out like an email to her audience. And basically we were like, we have 50 of these or like 30 of these special like Valentine's Day lip balms. Secret admirer, like a secret admirer thing where we were like, send us the name and like address of someone you want to send this to, like a love tap, and we'll send out this lip balm for free on your behalf. And then I think, we included like a note. And it was just a surprise that people weren't expecting.
Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh, I love that idea so much. I might take it.
I'm going to steal it.
Yeah.
It actually worked really, really well, because the intention, I was like, let's flip this on its back and say, like, let's not do like, we would have made like, it would have been like nominal, and we were like, okay, well, why don't we use it instead to like expand the audience, right? So like this not only ended up being effective to just build that rapport and that relationship with her audience, but also it expanded her brand to doubled it, because we were sending these products out to her, that customer's friend, or that audience member's friend, so a family member. So anyways, it was fun. It was really fun. Okay, so let's see. One of the things I wanted to chat about was like how do you balance numbers and creativity to make a campaign feel authentic? Because I feel like there's always this split between there's the data-driven strategies and data being kind of the king of marketing. But then, of course, you have to build in the creative, and you always kind of want to try new things as well, just to see what might hit. So how do you balance the two?
Yeah, I like to say that data should inform your decisions. It shouldn't dictate your decisions. It should just be something that sheds light on what's great, what aligns, and what doesn't. And then from there, you decide what to do next. And so another way to say this is like on the creative level, numbers set the stage, creativity sets the tone. And literally, like it sets the tone, the messaging, the storyline. So you start with data to identify the specific trends going on, to identify your audience behaviors, benchmarks, performance benchmarks, or conversion benchmarks. And you use these as a foundation. So you can use these if you know your specific benchmarks. You can then go back and see if you hit that benchmark or you didn't. If you did, then see how you can use creativity to determine how to share the message. If it's a promotion, how you can have a unique storytelling in a way that aligns with the data. So for example, if a lot of people do video content, a lot of people do Reels or TikTok. If your analytics show a high engagement rate with video content compared to carousel content or graphic content, then you can combine that insight or that knowledge with a creative idea with a compelling customer success story. Like if your video, the videos that are doing well are based on highlighting customers or based on highlighting befores and afters, then how can you be creative in the way that you share customer success stories?
Understood.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So it's like, how do you create variance within the framework of like data driven strategy, essentially?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And then one of the things I wanted to touch on with you, especially because you specialize in email marketing, is why do you think email marketing is still so effective? And how do you make it work in an era that is dominated by social media?
Yeah, I can die on this topic, and I love it so much. Email marketing has been around forever, and I think that is like full stop. It has been around forever, and it continues to stay. And the reason why is one, you own that platform. You own your list.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yesterday was a great example. We had an outage.
I know.
We had an outage. My clients could not post and promote whatever it is that they were promoting. We had a masterclass launch that we were trying to promote. We had new lead magnets for an e-commerce brand. We were in the middle of a site-wide launch for another e-commerce brand. We couldn't post any of that yesterday. Every time we did, everyone tried it on my team. So 4 of us tried it on our phones. And I was like, you need to try it because one of us has to make this happen. And what we got was waiting for connection or error, upload deleted. When you just have social media and that happens, you're not going to be able to grow and scale as fast as you want to be. And when you have your email list, you own your list. So aside from outages, there's social media algorithms that everyone and their mom is trying to hack, trying to figure out the secret, right? But the truth is there is no secret, and the algorithms change all the time. But when you have your list of audience, there's no algorithm, right? There's no algorithm that stands between you and your audience. The second reason I like it is because you're directly communicating to your people, because it lands in their inbox, or if you use SMS marketing, lands on their phone. So you can be more personable and you can guarantee that it does reach their method of communication, email or SMS. And those two combined, that just outperforms any channel, right? I think the stat is like $40 for every dollar spent is your average ROI. For every dollar I spend and I get $40 back, yeah, I'm going to do that. Like I spend $1,000 in email and I'll get $40,000 back. Absolutely. Count me in.
100%. I love that. And yeah, I mean, there's always like 1 or 2 outages. It feels like a year, and they always come at the most inopportune times. So you better have like an email marketing strategy in place for that. And I just want to remind people too that hopping onto email market to send an email just for a sale is an absolute no-go. Like, you have to nurture that audience. And to your original point about relationship building and building real connections, it's about giving, and giving with, through email, and not just sending an email when there's a promotion or a sale. Because I still see that. I still see that from time to time.
Right. Only sending emails when you're running a promotion, or only sending emails during Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Yeah. I like to think of the two as an ecosystem. I forgot you had a question on how to make it work. So social media is usually founders' go-to, which makes sense. You want to secure your handles. You want to show up on social. You want to build a content strategy and really nail your content online. I get that. And I also get that social, if you're not currently running ads or working with influencers, that's going to be where you drive email signup. So social media is absolutely necessary. Social is where you have brand awareness, you get more eyeballs, you push people to your reels, your lives, and your stories. But then think about email as really where you can nurture, like you mentioned, building relationships, then ultimately converting. So think of them, the two of them, as a pair. So use social to drive email signups, use email to nurture deeper connections. So whether that's like having a checklist, having a quiz, having a guide, as a beauty or a wellness brand, like having either of those three is really, really a great tool to drive people from one platform to the other. And it's also a great way for you to share how you stand out compared to big box retailers or compared to other brands, right? Because you're coming in and sharing your expertise within the checklist or the quiz versus just like vomiting all of the educational content on social media.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually just did an interview with the founders of We Needle. It's a prenatal brand for women and men. And they were sharing how, like, their lead magnet that they built, and I can't remember the name of the lead magnet. It was something like how to get yourself, like how to improve your chances of getting pregnant with your partner, something like that. And it was like a lead magnet. It was like some sort of checklist or like here are like 10 things you can do. And they said that helped them build thousands of subscribers before they launched. Bootstrapping their business, they would do exactly what you're sharing. They would share some education on social and be like, hey, sign up for our email list where you can get this checklist or like this, download XYZ, and thousands of people signed up before they launched their brand. So they had a very successful launch, obviously, as a result. But it is that simple, and yet I think I think perhaps, and maybe you can shine light on this, but where people get tripped up is like, what is that content? How do you make it catchy, attention grabbing, and I think a lot of times it comes down to like prioritization too of time.
Yeah, prioritization and segmentation. So if you're already coming in, right, and gathering the data, gathering those emails, might as well segment them out into little groups, whether it is highly engaged or unengaged, or whether it is they're in their 30s and struggling with XYZ, they're in their 40s struggling with XYZ. Like, do that earlier on as you're getting emails, because that's the other like layer to really making email marketing work versus social, where you can talk to your ideal customer profile as if they're right there, but the reality of your content only hitting to that profile and hitting to that profile every single time is slim, slim nowadays compared to email, where you can do it every single time. And makes total sense that We Needle had a very successful launch, because if they didn't grab those emails and it was just like, hey, here's the checklist, read this carousel post and you can get that checklist there or get that guide here. Those audience, like the audience isn't going to be as attentive as if they were in email, because their attention on social is split between your brand and tens of thousands of other brands, right? Versus email, you just know, like, yes, you probably are subscribed to 50 other emails or 50 other brands, but that's 50 other brands compared to 500 people,
millions.
that they're following, to thousands and millions that just show up on your home feed now.
Yeah, great point. So speaking of email, let's get super granular, because I think one thing I noticed is that whenever we're planning promotions with our founders or campaigns, I'm sure you can attest to this, they're never sending enough emails. And so like, let's just, as an example, let's say it's a 5-day promotion. Tell the audience, how many emails would you send for a 5-day promotion?
I would say the sweet spot is 5 to 7, which I know you're probably listening to this and you're like, oh my gosh, 5 to 7, that's every day. And won't my audience get tired of it? No, they need to hear it multiple times. Now, the reason why is you have to stay top of mind. And I know brands that send more. We've done this. We've sent more than that. During Black Friday, Cyber Monday, for large lists, we send 3 to 4 emails per day. Now that's segmented. That's not to the whole audience. But the way that I would do this, so you have 5-day promotion. Day 1, you have your launch day. You have your morning email. I would do an email announcement in the morning. So this can just be highlighting the launch or the the announcement, the promotion plan, then benefits about, whatever products you're promoting, and why now is the time to act, or why now is the time to purchase. Then that evening, I'd send another one. I don't think it's too early. I would actually send another one that same day and do a reminder that the launch or the promotion exists and it just started, and then include testimonials. So you're just reiterating everything that you did, or you're enhancing what you sent out in the first email. Then you have day 2 through 4, where you can just do one email per day. And this is where you're building momentum while still staying top of mind. So here we are focusing on the value of your products or your collection, and then the scarcity. So you have 3 emails over the course of 2 through 4, day 2 through 4. The way that I would do this is, maybe the first one is you're highlighting different benefits, different unique features that you didn't mention in the first day. If you're running out of it and you want to mention it again, totally fine. And the second one is a FAQs to address any objections, because there will be some. The third is storytelling. So whether that is telling a story of your customer, telling a story of how you created the product or how the product came to be. And then the 5th day, I would do 2 more emails, where the morning you just have a last day reminder and build that FOMO. And then the second is that evening, and it's just like, hey, we have a few hours left to this promotion. Get in before the cart closes. You can keep it super short, keep it high energy, super simple. My favorite is if we have like a hero image or hero section that we do between days 2 to 4, we'll just duplicate that same email for day 5 and just only have the hero section. So
I love that.
Very simple. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that breakdown. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure, I hope like our founders can go, and I hope they can go and implement this right away, which is for their next promotion, whatever that may be. Okay, speaking of founders, you've worked with big businesses, medium businesses, small businesses, businesses just getting started. What do you find is like the biggest challenge that you see bootstrapping founders face when they're trying to scale from 0 to 100? Okay.
Yeah. 0 to 100. So number one, they lack clarity on their ideal customer. They either lack clarity or they don't want to niche down on an ideal customer, right? And they just want to appeal to everybody. They're like, oh, my products are just for every woman on earth. Not true. I would not appeal and market in that way. Second one is they want to do everything themselves. And I completely get it. You got to bootstrap, right? You have to bootstrap, so you feel like you have to do everything yourself and you're DIYing everything. But at some point, if you decided to create a business, create a brand, and you're being very intentional about it, I feel like with e-commerce brands, like the moment you decide that you're going to launch this e-commerce brand with products that you're creating on your own, you're like diving into that. There's no like stepping your toes in and figuring out, is this for me? No, you're diving into it. And so when you're diving into it like that, you can't DIY everything as much as you want to, because that just leads into burnout, subpar execution, mistakes, or you go into like perfection overload. And it leads into either lack of marketing, improper marketing, or inconsistent marketing. So I would say that would be the third challenge, is they end up being either super sporadic with their tactics, sending an email once every 3 months, or not sending an email at all until it's launch time. Then they're like, okay, I launched my products, now what? Or they post whenever they can, or they post and create content when they have the energy to. They work on everything except marketing because they're tired. And so it's like top of mind, oh, I don't have an audience, so why should I market?
Right.
Wrong thought.
It's like you won't get the audience unless you market.
Right. You're just going to launch to crickets, and that's what we don't want to happen.
Right. 110% agree with this. Who was it that I was just talking to? I was doing an interview where small business bootstrapped, and so, oh, yes, who was it? I can't remember, but she was telling me how, she was really streamlined and, bare bones with a lot of things, except she invested in like a marketing person and a PR person, like right out of the gate, right at launch, and how that really helped propel that momentum forward in her particular case. And so I agree in that, like, as you're bootstrapping your business, it's a matter of being really strategic with your dollars and deciding, like, when you launch, knowing where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are, and where can you show up consistently. Is it operations? Is it marketing? Is it sales? I mean, marketing and sales has to be 80% of your business until you hit at least 500,000. It has to be the primary focus, and then you start to build in operations and better systems and processes. I see founders hiding in either operations or product development, and one of the two or both. And then like, to your point, then they're inconsistent in marketing and sales. And that's what fuels the whole machine. If you don't have that, there's nothing to fiddle with.
No cash flow. Yeah.
Operations, systems, or product development. So yeah, 100%. And then what about, like, from scaling from like 100? So once they've hit six figures, and then to that next milestone, which would be 500,000, what are the challenges that you see for bootstrapping founders?
Yeah. So once you've hit six figures, then at that point, you either think that you've got it, right? So you've got this. So you're like, if you're not DIYing, you kind of try to do it yourself. You're like, I can do this now. I have the time. I've learned it. I'm going to just repeat this. And what ends up happening is they plateau because they realize they either can't do it in the time that people used to be able to do it, or they can't do it anymore because they're now wearing more hats than what they thought they could handle. Or they end up just plateauing because what got you to six figures is not what's going to get you past multiple six figures, right? Like, if you're at 100K, what you learned to get to 100K and what you did there isn't what's going to get you to 1 million. And so when you just rinse and repeat some of those strategies without doing like a reset, you hit the ceiling and you need new strategies. And it takes a lot of founders, like, a lot of time. I think that's usually where they kind of come to us, like the best ones that we know we can really, really just fix up with slight tweaks. They come to us because they've plateaued, because they realized, oh, I can't be doing the same thing that I was doing, or I can't do this all myself. The second relates to that in a little bit, but basically delegation or hiring properly / team building, right? At this point, usually they think like, okay, I'm making money, I'm seeing cash flow, but now I need to delegate. And they end up delegating. On the flip side, they delegate very quickly and they end up hiring the wrong people with the wrong expertise. And so that limits their capacity to scale. And then on a more marketing, like, tactical side is ads. They start ads. This is usually when they're like, I'm ready to go big on ads, but they still haven't honed in on really what makes their product unique, why their ideal, like, who their ideal customer profile is. Like, they just made it with like knowing basic to mid-level stuff about their ideal customers, right? But they don't really know what makes them tick. And so they run ads, and based on just not knowing their ICP completely, their website doesn't convert well, their paid ads doesn't convert well, and it just ends up wasting, ad spend with zero ROI.
Absolutely. No, makes total sense. And then tell me, like, as you think about, are there any brands that you've worked with that have scaled quickly, that you've been able to see maybe scaled faster than what the norm, and what did they do to succeed?
Yeah, I would say there's one brand I'm thinking of right now. They're an e-commerce brand, and we grew their e-commerce brand, they're a health brand, 300% in 8 months. They were already pretty consistent. They were already doing well, but they just felt stuck. And what we looked at first, we really took I think we took 2 months on the data alone. I didn't want to rush it. Took 2 months on the data alone. And then from there we saw, okay, they just have if we're looking at the customer journey, start to finish of their customers on how they interact with their brand, and we pinpoint the touch points, there are really only 2 or 3 down peaks of where it wasn't hitting benchmarks. And where it came down to was their website. Their website needed a refresh because the conversion rate was it was low compared to their competitors. They were solid. It was 2%, something like that. But compared to the competitors and how many ad spend they were coming in, it really needed to be 3 or 4 or higher. And so we looked at that and just made some small tweaks on the site. And then second was their messaging in their ads, because they were really trying to mimic what other larger brands were doing in their field. But that, I feel is a really huge mistake, because just because you think it works for other brands, it may or may not work for yours. And I know that's a really great way to do some research in the first place, right? To see is okay, if this beauty brand that has hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram is doing their content this way, or running their ad this way, or promoting their new launch this way, then if I do it, I'm going to get the same results. But there's so many factors that came to that you will probably not align with, right? Whether that's a slight age difference in ICP, or their products just land differently, or whatever that is, it could go really poorly for you. And that's kind of what ended up happening with them. And so we created their ad strategy and their ad creatives themselves to really speak to their ideal customers, versus seeing what other competitors were doing and what brands that were a little bit bigger than them were doing, and copying and replicating that, only to get the bare minimum of a ROAS, of a return on ad spend.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think trying to mimic a larger brand that's a few stages ahead, or many stages ahead of you, is a recipe for disaster. I see this a lot too, because it's they may see that large brand targeting a larger set of audience, a broader audience, but they didn't start that way. And that's when we do our challenge, I always kind of show this example of Amazon, and how Amazon started with just books, online books. And then now over years time, and then it was it was books, and then it was electronics, whatever it was, it just kept expanding from there. But it didn't start with hey, we're going to be selling everything on the site. They didn't start that way. For many years, they were just books, until they got clear on their, ideal customer. They got clear on their process and their system, and what really worked. And then they could scale it to more and more categories. And I think that's where people get tripped up. And I also think that oftentimes we think that we've saturated a specific segment or a specific audience. And that's just not the case.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. There's always room at the table.
Mm-hmm. There's more to be done in that little niche than I think we think there is. Sometimes I find that brand will expand their niche too quickly.
Right.
They'll expand their audience too quickly.
Yeah.
So, okay. So what else? With founders who have, limited budgets, is there a specific, focus? Where should they focus their marketing efforts to get the biggest ROI? And I think you kind of answered that already.
Yeah, email. Yeah. Email marketing, yes. Yeah, definitely email marketing, whether it's if you're brand new, you haven't launched anything, build that email list early. Second, let's say maybe this is your first or second year in business, optimize your email automations. Welcome flow, post-purchase, and abandoned cart specifically. I think people sleep on this, and it makes me so sad, because the amount of customer retention that we're able to have with post-purchase alone, and then the amount of carts that you're able to recover from abandoned cart, I really feel if nothing else, if you can't send emails regularly, fine. At the very least, have these 3 automations really, really well done.
Mm-hmm. And then even to piggyback off of that, I think in a unstable economy, when people are maybe holding on to their money more, it's investing time into retention strategies like you just shared, like abandoned cart, and making sure like once someone's purchased with you, they're, you have the post-purchase sequence and the abandoned cart sequence for those who are actually on the site, they're engaging with you, is so crucial, because there's more that you can sort of squeeze out of that situation versus trying to acquire, new audience, new customers, particularly in a tricky, funky economy.
And I would say the other thing too is non-email related is your website, specifically your product pages, making sure that is very clean, very direct, because that is where you're driving people to. And then second, with that is experimenting with different conversion boosters. So you have like the proof source, or that little like proof widget that comes up on the bottom of the screen, right? That just enforces like, hey, somebody else bought this. And then the second one is like this free shipping module. I always recommend that, especially if you have a free shipping threshold. When people see that visual of like, oh my gosh, I'm only, this much from getting free shipping, like $25 left, like what else can I buy? People will do that versus spending $12 on shipping. And then the third on the same topic is upsell pop-up. So when people add to cart, getting a pop-up that encourages them to add something else to the cart. I was in a Facebook group the other day, and someone was talking about how she hadn't realized that her proof source, like the widget that comes up that shows I have other people on site buying or looking at products, she didn't realize that had been turned off accidentally. And so for the last 10 days, her sales had plummeted. Like she said, it went down 60%, Aggie. 60%. Yeah. And she was like, nothing else is changing. I don't know what's going on. And she shared that, and she was like, so by the way, you guys, if you feel like your sales dropped and you have this on, just double check that it's actually on. And I loved seeing that, because I think a lot of founders laugh at me when they tell me, like, hey, can you take a look at my site and give me some ideas? And I'm like, first and foremost, go ahead and add that. And that's going to change the trajectory of your business in the next like 2 to 4 weeks. And sure enough, this person just proved it. Like that alone had increased her conversion rate by 60%. So
yeah, I believe it. We have it on all of our pages.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I love that widget. Okay, so then when it comes to paid ads, we touched on this already a little bit, but if someone's just starting out with paid ads and experimenting with like Facebook ads or Instagram ads or Google ads, what advice do you have for them?
Yeah, I would say start small and start early. Paid ads is going to be your second best friend next to email marketing, second best friend, because at some point you're going to hit a ceiling with social media. My hope is that never happens, but the reality is it does. It does for a lot of brands, especially nowadays with the new algorithm. And so you're going to be limited with how many eyeballs are going to be seeing your products and your website. And so even if you just start with $10 to $20 a day, right? So that's $10 a day, about $300. So $300 to $600 a day, that's worth it to just test audiences and test creatives. So in this stage, whether it's just a month or 2 months, go in not expecting sales. I don't want you to go in and say, I'm going to put in $600 and I'm going to get $600 minimum back. I want you to actually look at it and see, one, am I getting it in front of people, right? Am I increasing brand awareness? And two, am I figuring out the best creatives, the best messaging, the best video style that people are attracted to? You're going to increase brand awareness naturally, i.e. you're going to increase followers naturally if you have the winning ad, the winning creatives, the winning audiences, like that's going to naturally happen. But I would focus on that first. And then when you're ready to even just increase the budget by 30%, then go in choosing the best results of the creatives, the audiences, the copy, even play with offers and then go in there being like, okay, I want to see sales once every 2 days, once every 3 days, and then start decreasing that. I would do it that way if you're not willing to work
That's
with an
a
agent.
great way to do it.
Easy things. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's very logical. Like it's a
Yeah.
very logical progression versus like, I think what I see a lot of times, especially a lot of people are intimidated by ads. Like small brand founders are intimidated by ads. And if they see it doesn't work immediately, they like their emotions freak out. And one of the things I learned about ads is like going into it knowing that you're gonna like lose a certain amount of money in the beginning and being okay with that and having just like that pocket of money that you saved up, knowing that after you've lost some money and if you take, the strategy that you just laid out for us, that eventually you'll just continue to kind of see what's working, testing, optimizing, and eventually you'll start to get that 1 sale a week and then 2 sales a week and 3 sales a week and more and more and more and more. But I think people quit so quickly because they're like, oh my God, I'm losing money. And but then they miss out on the benefits of advertising, which is so huge.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. And doing it this way too helps you learn and understand how to convey specific things when you're ready to outsource it. Because that's the next problem, right? Is like, okay, now you're ready to outsource it because you know it works, but then you don't necessarily know how to convey your expectations or what you've learned with your agency. And so, or the whoever it is that you hired. And so this way, it just makes you feel more well versed as a founder too, which I always think is important.
Absolutely. And you can stomach,
Yeah.
bringing somebody on and have it be a little bit shaky in the beginning because you expect that to happen.
Yeah.
With regards to audiences, I wanted to just kind of circle back to that. So obviously there's targeted audiences that you can set up with ads, or there's also Advanced Plus with Facebook now, or I think it's called Advanced Plus, right? And we kind of played with both. Do you have a preference on one or the other, or what you've seen work better recently?
Yeah, so more recently, the A+ campaigns are actually doing way better than my manual campaigns.
Same. Okay.
And I didn't want to admit it at first. I know. I will say, like in the summer, my manual ones were still performing way better than my A+, but they've learned a lot in the last 6 months. But with the A+ campaigns, I will say it does take a while to gear up to really scale. So with A+, you heard it from me and Aggie saying that they do work really well. That first 2 weeks, you may hear crickets or you may hear 1 sale every few days versus a sale consistently. You have to be willing to be patient and let it play out because the A+ really relies on data mining. So if you do it that way, which is honestly probably the only and best way in the future to do it, is don't touch it. Set it up, don't touch it for 2 weeks and see what happens.
Okay, amazing. You heard it here first. or second. But okay, so what else? AI tools. Let's get into AI because I think it's so great. And I love AI. I love chat and Claude and all the AI, my digital tools my plugins that I have for chat. It's becoming more and more accessible to do things on your own, which is great, which I love. Is there any, how can indie brands, use AI to support their marketing efforts without losing that authenticity? And do you have any tools that you love to use?
Yes. So there are 2 that I think of because I really want to contribute other than ChatGPT and Claude. One, or actually 3, sorry, 3. One is Intercom, which is like an AI chatbot you can have on your site, and they can handle FAQs or recommended products using your brand's tone of voice. Like you can drop it in your brand voice, your brand deck, samples of IG stuff, social stuff, email stuff, and it will be able to understand your brand voice. And so at any point, yeah, right, you're on the website, maybe it notices someone has been scrolling for longer than their usual, they haven't added to cart, it will pop up and be like, hey, can I help you find a specific product? And that's going to just streamline customer service and just sales really easily and recommend products easily. The second is ManyChat. If you're not using it already, I would recommend that with Instagram. And just, super simple stuff, whether it's like comment lipstick if you want our new lip collection, or comment email if you want to download this free guide. And it'll just automatically take care of that for you. And then the third is Cast Magic. So a lot of the founders I talk to, even from C2C, where they're like early stage, they're like, okay, I'm really busy. I'm not the greatest at writing. I just want to talk to my phone. I just want to say things, but I don't like being on camera. So with Cast Magic, you can upload a voice memo, upload a voice recording, and from that voice recording, it will create like tens of pieces of content, from email, from social media posts, whether it's like LinkedIn, X, Threads, Instagram, carousels. It will give a script to record a reel, or hooks to add on a reel with B-roll. It will give you blog posts. It will give you ideas to film content for, like products of, and it will do that with your brand voice. Yeah.
That is so cool. How is that different than from Opus Club?
So Opus is video oriented, right? So you upload your talking head video and it will put in subtitles. Cast Magic, there's no video involved. It's just the audio recording. So it will transcribe, analyze, and then use AI to create content, where it's actually written content, and then you can take it from there.
Cool. Okay. Amazing. Such a great tip. Okay. So I wanted to put the spotlight on you. If you were launching your own beauty brand from scratch today, what would be the first marketing strategy you'd implement?
Yeah.
Go.
Okay. So little secret, I'm working on something with my sister, and I'm so excited for it.
God, stop, really?
Yes, it probably will not launch. Yes, I'm going to tell you. She officially joined on it, and it's like literally early stage. But last week. Yesterday we went over it in like a first official real meeting. But last week I literally thought about, what is the roadmap? What is the perfect plan for this? Because I do it all the time for clients. So how can I do this for myself? In a document. It's like 10 pages long. But first, I would define my brand and my ideal customer. But more than just my brand, like what's my brand values? What is it that's going to set me apart from other people? And I'm not trying to find like, what is this unique thing that doesn't exist yet on the market? No. I'm really just finding out like, what aligns with me in a way that other people can see that and be like, oh my gosh, I align with that too. And then from there, like drawing out my ideal customer and being very, very specific. So from there, figuring out my mission, my voice, and then the visuals, which is honestly the hardest part at the moment. And then I would start building an audience. So the first action item on our ClickUp is make a simple landing page with our domain, with a wait list, and just start pushing people to the wait list, whether it's ads, influencers, organic social, word of mouth, like we're just pushing people to the wait list.
Very cool. I love that. That's perfect process right there. So exciting. I can't wait to chat about this more. We'll have to have you back on here to chat about the new brand that you're and the process. You should document it, like step by step by step.
I was thinking
like
of that,
what you're doing, like almost like either on video or like voice notes or something, somewhere that you're documenting it every week, like the progress, because I think it'll be interesting. It'll be the perfect case study.
Yes, absolutely. And I know, like, does my tactics actually work? I think what's exciting about it is I actually told my sister up front that I'm like, hey, I actually want to have the marketing hat. I don't want to have the founder hat. Like, you can be the founder hat. You can make decisions. I actually want to take myself out of this equation and market it as a client, because I know I'll just have analysis paralysis like every founder does, right? Or like you just have this idea of everything that you need to do, but I'm challenging myself not to think like that.
So it's funny. I thought about doing something like that because I know like if I were launching a new brand right now, I would just follow C2C. Like I would just follow like it step by step by step, which is kind of what you laid out just now. I would just follow it step by step by step to launch a new product. And I'm like, oh, I really want to do it. But I'm like, wait, bandwidth. We do not have
Yes.
the bandwidth for this right now, but I think like maybe in the next like 5 years, it could be like a 5-year project.
Yeah. We're starting early because I'm like, this can be my retirement plan, maybe, hopefully.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. Okay, so shifting to mindset, what's one small habit or mindset shift that you think can really help bootstrapping founders stay consistent and focused in their marketing efforts? Because there's nothing that's it really, like, people ask like, what's the perfect channel, or what should I be focusing, like what channel should I be doing, like what's the trend, what's the thing, and it really isn't about that. It's about pick one and just show up consistently. And granted, like pick one. So let me put a pin in that. Pick one that is specific to where your target customer is and be consistent with it. So what's like one small habit or mindset shift that can help our founders stay more consistent?
Yeah. I love that you mentioned perfection, because that was the first thing I thought of, is progress over perfection. Sounds so cheesy, I know, but it's very, very true. Like if you can think of anything else, this is the thing. Progress over perfection. I see it all the time with previous clients that have come our way. Is they find, like I talked about this even for myself, is we have analysis paralysis, right? Like we realize, whether it's through C2C or through Googling or YouTube videos, like we see all these things that we have to be doing. And it paralyzes us from taking action. So they delay action but then they end up wanting to be perfect with everything as well. And so they want everything to be flawless before launching. And by this time, it's like too late to do anything else, or you've just kind of set yourself back like months at this point, right? And I think with marketing specifically, or even with sales, it's iterative. Your content, your campaigns, your strategies, they're all going to evolve as you go. So I love that you mentioned, like, pick one content item, one campaign, one strategy. And instead of aiming for it to be perfect before you launch anything or do anything, just aim for progress. Because when you're aiming for progress, you can just look at it one day at a time. I just want to be consistent, 1 week at a time, whatever that consistency definition is for you. When you do that, it compounds over time. And so if you focus on progress over perfection than anything else, you're going to be able to supersede so many other businesses or competitors just because you're just
by that,
moving
doing
along.
that.
Yeah,
100%.
absolutely.
Even if you're doing things wrong,
Yeah.
at least you're showing up consistently and you're learning from showing up consistently. And yeah, to your point, like just by doing that, you'll get ahead of other people that are maybe even brands that are ahead of you, but are getting tripped up by all other stuff. I always say, like, get it to be a B plus. Like, I have a lot of perfectionists in my community, which I understand better than anybody because I'm a recovering perfectionist. So I totally understand that. And I always say, get it to a B plus. We're not talking about a C minus thing here. We're talking about, like, get it to a B plus, or your version of, like, A minus. Like, get it to that point where it's not perfect, but it's good. It's good. It's
Yes.
solid.
Good, not great. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then the other piece is hiring, going back full circle to hiring, where, one of the areas that I always struggled with showing up consistently with all my businesses, whether it be my product business or my service business, was social, because I know how important it's so important. And I remember, like, my friend who was like a beauty blogger turned social media, like, marketing person. And she, when actually with this business, when it was the first couple years, and she was like, like, there's content that you're doing around your launches, but then, like, it feels like it kind of drops off afterwards, and it would behoove you to be much more consistent. And I'm like, I know, you're right. And so I ended up hiring her, and she was my first social media manager. She ended up not doing that work. She ended up switching gears to something different after a while, but she was with me those first, I would say, 2.5 years, and she helped us really show up more consistently on social. And so I guess where I'm going with this is that I knew it was a weakness. I knew that I couldn't be consistent with it. I knew I couldn't show up consistently with it as much as I wanted to, and as much as I had ideas, and I saw, I had a vision for it. But it's like, number one, how much time do you have in a day and a week? What can you actually do? And where can you show up consistently? And that I just knew, no matter how much I tried to trick myself to be like, I can do it myself, I couldn't do it consistently enough myself. So I knew I had to delegate that piece out. And it was still my voice. It was still my, like, I was still the one like generating the ideas and a lot of the time the copy, but she was just taking it and putting it out there consistently. So anyways, long way of saying, like, maybe the option in this case is, hiring.
Right. Yeah. Well, I love that you gave that example, because I think about how we have a couple clients that I love them so much. They're so great. Their products are amazing. They're extreme perfectionists. But what has even just helped because of having us on their team is we're that constant reminder. Like, I'm going to be that annoying person. I'm going to be like, hey, did you check on this? Hey, did you review this? Day in and day out. So you know that it's just as important as it is to me as it is to you. You hired us. You've made that decision that you want to make this happen. So we're going to make sure and be that reminder for you that you need to review and improve this. And that alone, like that, the idea of even just hiring, because it's going to be another accountability check versus you just being in your own head of like, oh, I got to do this tomorrow, but I can't. No, if you hired, you spent money on somebody, you have to show up and either give feedback or just say yes and see how it goes.
Yes, I love the pressure of my team or anyone that I hire.
Yeah.
I work really well under pressure and deadlines. As someone who like has ADD, I think for those of you who struggle with ADD, not struggle, but I see it as a superpower now. But it is like, we work really good under pressure. We work really good with deadlines, and we have to almost like lean into that. And so I actually find that the deadlines that my team members put on me, or that when I'm hiring somebody and someone's counting on me to get something to them, they work great. Like I'm like, yes, let's go. Like, I like, bring on the pressure. Like, I'm good under pressure.
Yeah. So if you're
love
like that, hire somebody.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, to your point, like putting money behind it, it gives you that extra pressure. Like, for example, my social media strategist or my social media manager, whenever, she wants me to create new content, she'll put like a whole shot list together for me. And she's like, I need these reels and I need this copy and I need, XYZ, right? These videos. And she'll give me a bunch of a shot list with examples. And I will actually like book a room, like a breather room or some kind of like studio, and I'll spend money on it for a certain amount of, a certain amount of hours, because it'll force me to create that content. Because I'm like, I have to do it. I paid the money for this room. I can't just like wiggle my way out of it. Like I booked this thing. I'm doing it. I'm literally gonna bang out this entire shot list during this time.
Yeah. You have to do that sometimes. Yeah, you have to create those parameters.
Yes. You have to create those parameters and like sort of like those constrictions, right? It's like entropy. It's the concept, like the physics concept of entropy. If you have the space, the molecules will fill the space, right? And it's the same thing. If you create the constraint, you will operate in that constraint. So anyways, I'm creating constraints for myself in the work. So.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. Oh, that's so funny.
Anyways, any other parting words or, recommendations for those who are listening who might be overwhelmed with all the options, all the things that they need to do? Like, what's one simple action they can take today to move their brand forward?
I was going to say binge all of Aggie's podcasts, probably. Actually, part of that. So I would say if you're feeling overwhelmed, 1 hour, one day. Just promise yourself that 1 hour, one day, and start today. Start, the day that you're listening to this. Don't wait till, when is this podcast going out? 2025?
No, probably beginning of 2025 or maybe before that. We'll see.
Okay, well, don't wait until the next week or the next month or the next year. Do that right now, just 1 hour a day to marketing activities, right? There's no distractions, no multitasking. If you have to book a conference room or a WeWork room for an hour, do that and focus on a specific task, whether it's creating content, engaging with your audience, analyzing your Shopify data, updating and optimizing your product pages. And if all of that just seems like a lot to do in one day or in 1 hour, an easy schedule, I would say, is Monday, do some market research, whether it's mining data on Facebook groups, sending a survey, polling your IG audience and stories, or directly asking people on Instagram. And then from there, plan your content for the week. We talked about content and social being, a very important channel to generate visibility. So if we use the schedule as a content, Monday, plan your content based on your research. Tuesday, write your captions, write your emails, your blog drafts, whatever you can do in 1 hour. This can change week to week, but if I set a timer similar to you, Aggie, if I create that constraint, like I'm going to do what I can in 30 minutes because I know I only have 30 minutes. Same thing, if I have a whole day that I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it the whole day. I'm going to wait till the end of the day. So create that constraint of 1 hour, set a timer, turn off any distractions and just write. Wednesday, engage with your audience, publish, promote. Thursday, analyze what you just released. Friday, brainstorm and enjoy your week. And rinse and repeat.
Love
1 hour a day.
So fun, so easy to do, manageable. Like our founders can absolutely implement that. So what a great tip. Love that. Love closing out this session on that tip. Thank you, Chelsya. Thanks for being here with me today and for sharing all your wisdom and experience and marketing strategies with us. This was so enlightening.
Yes, of course. It was such a great conversation. And yeah, for those who are listening, you're not alone. Everything that you're feeling, and if you're overwhelmed by everything that you learned in this podcast, you're not alone. The important thing is just to keep going, keep making progress.
Absolutely. You will win if you don't quit.
Yes. Oh,
I truly believe that. You will win if you don't quit. All
Amazing.
right. Thank you, Chelsya. And we'll see you all on the next episode. If you love this episode, please, if you can, leave a review. We appreciate every single listener, every single subscriber, every single review. So please leave us one if you enjoy this. Thank you so much, everyone. And I'll see you on the next episode.